Hey up. Nice to see you. Here, you're looking a bit tired. Not been getting much sleep? Something been keeping you up at night? Ah, big project on, eh? Putting in double time? Aye, I can tell. So all this extra effort in aid of then? Ah, promotion. Looking to climb your way up the ladder. Get yourself noticed. Here, I'll pour you a pint. I know. How special. There you go. See, thing about getting noticed is sometimes you'll go to extraordinary lengths to catch someone's eye. Do things you wouldn't normally do, and suddenly, to them closest to you, you start to seem a different person. Ambition can be dangerous, all-consuming. One of our regulars, you might have met him actually, Alexander Asquith. Tall, got a bit of a period look about him, like a villain from a Dickens novel. No? Oh well, never mind. Well, our Alexander lectures up at the university, a professor of medieval and Renaissance literature, with emphasis on more esoteric works. Quite well regarded in his field, bit of an expert. Published a few books. Not quite as well known as he'd like to be though. He ain't no Ronald Hutton if you get me. You don't know who Ronald Hutton is? You like history documentaries? You do? Right, well you'll know who he is then. 'Cause I swear blind he turns up in every bloody history documentary they broadcast. Anyway, tangent over. So our Asquith were always on the lookout for that little something that might propel him to academic fame and notoriety. Something that'd make him preeminent in his field. A rising star, if you will. Of course, opportunities like that in his line of work don't often present themselves. History has a way of remaining hidden until it doesn't. I remember it were a particularly dreary day when Asquith, looking like the cat who'd just got the cream, come striding in with this package under his arm. Here, I said, you got a spring in your step. Something nice in that there package. Opportunity, he says. He then proceeds to unwrap the package, revealing a rather ancient-looking book. Not too thick, bound in faded brown leather. The title on the front read, here, hold on, I can't quite think. De Prumius? Prerequisite? Oh, I don't know. Presupuma Prescription for Apotheosis. Alright, smart ass. Ain't you got work to be getting on with? Clearing that back room, for instance. And anyway, how do you learn Latin? University. Oh, you learn something new every day. Anyway, what Nally said. Presupum adadeos. Prescription for apotheosis. So then the prof launches into this story about how he's come by the book. He discovered it in an antiquarian bookshop located at an antiques place. You know the one? It's out in the country, just off the motorway. Dagmere or something it's called. Nice day out actually. They got 5 huge storerooms, full to the brim with all kinds of old tat. You can pick up most anything there, from furniture to old LPs. Providing it were made before the 1990s, they likely got it in. Like one massive car boot sale. So Asquith's gone down there for the day, looking for a book on early Christian iconography. Been long out of print and this bookshop down there apparently had it in. Now he gets talking to the bookseller, as you do. Obviously, he drops into the conversation that he's a professor of medieval and Renaissance lit, yada yada, so far so boring. The bookseller says, "Here, I got something you might be interested in. Just come in today, in fact." And he pulls the praise spoon out from under the counter and presents it to the prof. No idea what it's all about. Looks to be an original. It's in pretty good nick. Done a search on the title and nothing comes up. An undiscovered work, maybe. Well, for the prof, this were exactly the kind of thing you were looking for. "How did you come by it?" he asked the seller. "Well, that's a funny story," the seller replies. As it turns out, the bookkeeper were good mates with the owner of the antiques furniture unit. He'd recently got a load of 17th century furniture at auction for a somewhat competitive price, may I add. One of the items were a large wooden chest. Quite heavy, apparently. Whilst moving it into the showroom, one of the assistants had dropped it, dislodging a concealed compartment in the process. In the compartment, amongst some other odds and sods, with a book. The furniture dealer, not knowing what to do with it, passed it on to the bookseller. Well, to say this story excited the professor would be putting it mildly. The works of John Dee were discovered in a similar way. Under closer inspection, it became apparent to the prof that this text was some hitherto undiscovered magical system. Not only were this interesting from an academic standpoint, it were bloody marketable. The kind of subject matter that could make a man's name. I could almost see the pound signs lighting up in his eyes. So he starts showing me the book's contents, excitedly explaining its purpose. Not gonna lie, most of what he said were all Greek to me. Seems it was some kind of grimoire, written in the 17th century, round the reign of King James I, by a one Widow Wincott. It laid down a prescriptive method to achieve apotheosis, the transcendent process of attaining godhood. So not exactly bedtime reading, you might say. It involved the invocation of what Asquith termed the hidden watchers, quasi-angelic beings, and the method by which they could be seduced, so the practitioner could learn their ways and become as they are. This were done through the creation of something called a soul chamber, essentially a spiritual observation point, a sub-reality if you will, the construction of which called for the strategic placement of black mirrors about the practitioner's home. The idea being that after a long and complicated process of meditation, ritual ceremony and invocation, the practitioner would allow the watcher to possess them utterly. However, instead of becoming a prisoner in their own body, the practitioner's soul would retreat into the soul chamber, and from there observe the watcher and take note of its otherworldly abilities, learning and mastering them. Once mastery was achieved, the watcher would then be conjured into the soul chamber and therein bound, indefinitely. With the watcher thus confined, the practitioner's soul would leave the soul chamber and resume residence of their own body. Only now with all the abilities and knowledge of some otherworldly entity. Sounds like a right rigmarole, doesn't it? Here, I'll pour you another pint. That were quite the ramble I went on, to be fair. Boggled my mind first time I heard it all. There you go. Wet your whistle. So Asquith took the manuscript to the university's top brass. Of course, the discovery were met with quite a bit of fanfare. They gave him research funding right off the bat. That's when things took a turn for the strange. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I'm some great academic. A lot of what Asquith said on his frequent visits went right over my head. But what I will say is we got on quite well. He came in a lot after all. He even held a society meeting here on a loose monthly basis. Called themselves the Infernal Book Club, or some such. So it didn't go unnoticed when his visits became less and less frequent, until eventually he stopped coming in at all. When his book club came in, he was noticeably absent. I was quite curious, so I asked one of his students, "Here, where's the prof at these days?" "Not seen him in about a month," came the reply. "He's been getting one of his PhD students run our lectures. Completely thrown himself into some important research project, apparently." Sounds about right, I thought. Now, just as it happens, one evening, this lass comes in. I recognised her as from his book club. Being the nosy bugger that I am, I said, "Here, how's our Asquith getting on with his research project? Is he famous yet?" "Ain't you heard?" she said. "He's been in intensive care this last week." "Bloody hell," I said. "What's happened?" That's when she gave me this rather haunted look. As it turns out, she was the PhD student who'd been leading the undergrad lectures in Asquith's absence. The semester were coming to an end and she were wondering what the situation were in regards to marking and such. She'd been trying to contact him for days, but he weren't answering the phone or the numerous emails she'd sent to him. Frustrated at the lack of correspondence, she decided to go round to his house and see what were going on. She knocked on the door, but there were no answer. That's when she heard a loud bang. So she stepped back and looked up. There was Asquith's face, pressed hard against the attic room window. His features were contorted in a grimace of pain. Then he disappeared from view. Not thinking about her own safety, she tried the front door, finding it unlocked. She found Asquith, crumpled in a fetal position on his attic floor, in the centre of an intricately drawn circle. She crouched down beside him and checked his pulse. Mercifully, he was still breathing. The paramedics who arrived at the scene said he'd likely suffered a severe cerebral aneurysm. She accompanied him to the hospital. The diagnosis looked bleak, with little chance of him ever regaining any cognitive function. So it was quite the surprise when he swaggered in a fortnight later, bold as brass. "Here," I said. "Heard you weren't long for this world." I got better. He seemed different somehow. There was a darkness to him that hadn't been there before, clung to him like a shadow. But I paid it no mind. I'm guessing a near-death experience will do that to you. He still comes in on a semi-regular basis, still holds the book club, only it's open to everyone now, not just students. Might want to pop along if that's your kind of thing. Next one's next month, I think. Anyway, my point is, sometimes the journey to success will lead you down some dark and winding roads. Make sure to look where you're going, be my advice. Best of luck with it though, eh? So you having another? Ah, you gotta be getting going. Fair enough. Well, you know where I am. Just ring that there bell and I'll be there. Have a good one.